الغوث حليل فريد عصر ما شفنا مثيل برعينا.
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 حليل الغوث بدني أحليل حليل البدر قنبليل برعينا.
Ibrahim Muhammad Wali Allah, 1923-2005, known as Burai of Sudan. In this episode, and as a continuation to our documentation to Sudanese Sufis and Sufism, it's my pleasure to introduce today in this episode one of great influential Sudanese Sufis, and that is Sheikh Abdurrahim al-Burai. Sheikh Abdurrahim al-Burai is a well-reputed Sudanese prophetic as well as Sufi poet. He considers one of the most recent influential charismatic Sammani personalities who appears not only as a spiritual leader but also a social reformer. In terms of some researchers and historians, Sheikh al-Burai during 1990s and early of 1920s and early of 2000s turned a phenomenon a Middle Eastern stood as the holy institution. He is among the most well-known shuyukh of the Sammaniya Sufi order who succeeded in creating an open-air tariqa that drew together significant segments of the middle class among mainly the educated Sudanese populace. He started as an individual Sammani or the Sheikh in 1944. Sheikh al-Burai gradually became popular for his unusual abilities of drama making, healing, and mediation in tribal conflicts. During the 1980s, he was able to achieve wide popularity among the middle class, as his poetry was broadcasted, published, and propagated by the media. His poetry, which represents a complement to literature, dominated the media in Sudan for the last 30 years. Sheikh al-Burai found individual solution to the problems of the Sudanese middle class. In the 1990s, he appeared as a celebrated national figure who had strong ties with the most Sudanese politicians, both in the government ruling as well as on the opposition circles. Such was the view of the researcher Dr. Amani Muhammad al-Ubaid in her study Al-Burai and the Middle Class in Sudan, and published a thesis, University of Khartoum, College of Economics, 2008. His biography informs that he is Sheikh Abdurrahim Sheikh Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr ibn Jadallah ibn Muhammad ibn Joda. He was born in 1923 in a Zariba village, about 120 kilometers southeast of Al-Ubaid, the capital of the North Kordofan state. His upbringing was so dignified and so noble under the care of his father, who was a scholar. About his direct descent, Sheikh al-Burai belongs to Kuala tribe, while from his mother side he belongs to the Yaliin, the specifically the offspring of a Sheikh Salman al-Awadi, who lived at the outskirts of Shendi. For more information about his lineage and family, see Abdurrahim Haj Ahmed Burai of Burai Sudan وغفات على شاطئ إرثه وحرثه, published by Al-Aspa Center, 2006. At the prime of his age, Sheikh al-Burai memorized the Quran and studied the science under his father, Sheikh Muhammad Wali Allah. He was well versed at the science of Hadith, prophetic traditions, Seerah, prophetic mission, fiqh, jurisprudence, and Arabic language. Moreover, Sheikh al-Burai took also the knowledge from the excellent famous books, and the impact of this was very clear in the poem that he composed. Sheikh al-Burai was so close to his father, Sheikh Muhammad Wali, and he used to be in his company day and night. Burai used to read the text while the father did comments and explanation on them. After the passing away of Sheikh Muhammad Wali, the ilm session or the knowledge session that used to be held at his mosque and at his masjid at the Sammani Center in the northern part of Kurdistan, the mission had started or continued, and the Sheikh al-Burai personally used to be in charge of teaching the Islamic books. These sessions of ilm used to be held daily, and as a witness, Sheikh al-Burai used, as we have stated, to continue after the passing away of his father, continued teaching in the masjid, teaching the audience, teaching the populace and the local. And that in that concern, he inherited, by the way, the position of his father as the teacher and as the guide at the same time. During his journey of education, he was so concerned and a lover to knowledge. And he used to say, if one of you had listened to a scientific matter 1,000 times, he ought to refuse not listening to the very same matter 1,001, that he may have new art on. And in this, I may say that the Sheikh was ill or the knowledge seeker till his passing away. Before his passing away in 1944, under a knife stabbing that had been directed by one Ahmad sick person in his masjid, Sheikh Muhammad Wali asked Sheikh al-Burai, his son and the future caliph of the center, on what he would do if a person killed his father. The answer from the Sheikh, from the future Khalifa, Sheikh al-Burai, that he will let him free. He will let the person who tried to stop his father and to kill him, he will let him free. In an interview with him, he said that his father, Sheikh al-Burai said his father, Sheikh Muhammad Wali, knew he is going to be killed. He asked Sheikh al-Burai, what would you do if someone killed your father? Sheikh al-Burai replied, if I kill the whole world for revenge, it will not be enough. So I let him free. After few days, a madman who has been cured, receiving his cure in the masjid of Sheikh Muhammad Wali in Al-Zariba, came to kill the Sheikh. He came to kill Sheikh Muhammad Wali. That is in the year 1944.
زار السوح ودخل دار عمر برير نعم الدار زار السوح ودخل دار عمر برير نعم الدار زار السوح ودخل دار عمر برير يا تربال انا زيارة الربال عمر برير نعم الدار كالقنبال صلح الغم ويسر بال عمر برير.
About his Sufi Senate, Sheikh al-Burai was a student, by the way, to Samaniya Sufi order through his father, Sheikh Muhammad Wali. In that concern, I would like to say that Sheikh al-Burai has been initiated into the Samaniya under his father, Sheikh Muhammad Wali, who was a student of a Sheikh Umar al-Safi of Al-Qurayda. And by the way, Sheikh Umar al-Safi was a student to my master, Sheikh Barir al-Hassin, who in turn was student to my master, Sheikh Muhammad Tumad Banaga. And Sheikh Muhammad Tumad Banaga, by the way, he is famous student of my master, Sheikh Multib, the founder of the Sudanese Samaniya. Following his assumed of the Caliphate of the center, Sheikh al-Burai, by the way, had followed very hard way of striving into the Sufi path. And in this concern, his life is centered on severe self-discipline, representing continuous praying on the Prophet, as well as continuous of zikr. In an interview with the ex-minister Khalifullah Rashid, the Minister of Justice during Ja'far al-Nahmani regime, he had a picture of the life of Sheikh al-Burai when he said, "We came to visit him in Zariba in late 1970s, me and the ex-minister Zain al-Abidin. We slept the night with him. After he generously welcomed us, we left Sheikh al-Burai while he was sitting making dhikr. When we wake up in the morning, we found him in the same condition, sitting and making dhikr. We asked one of his disciples when Sheikh al-Burai awoke. The disciple replied that he did not stand up and he did not sleep since you went to bed. That means he was sitting the whole night making dhikr." On this concern, we speak here just about his, we present his doctrine. So about his doctrine, he composed, by the way, his own doctrine at the Sammani independent branch. And on that way, he make also his own litanies and adhkar within the Sammaniya Tariqa. That meant he contributed in making up his own litanies and awrad and azkar to his disciples. His Sufi doctrine is very clear in his Al-Manzuma Tawhidiyya, out on monotheism, which summarizes the basis of Sufism. In the words of the researcher man Muhammad al-Abid, Sheikh al-Burai is a product of the new Sufi phenomenon, where ordinary Sufi practices, including karama making, are used side by side with Orthodox Islam practices. Such a view reflects the way that the Sammaniya's new Sufi movement, by the way, has come to change on the Sudanese Sufism. And when we presented the new Sufism movement, we have stated that one of the attributes and the characteristics of the new Sufi movement, and among them is the Sammaniya, which is Sheikh al-Burai is one of its members, is joining between Sharia and Haqiqa. In other words, it laid great emphasis on committing to Sharia, following the acquisition and the acquiring of knowledge from a side, and at the same time showing the guide as a perfect one that has the ability of performing karamat or spiritual or supernatural acts. This is just, by the way, one of the new characteristics that have come to shape and to form the Sudanese Sufism following the advent of Neo Sufism movement that already we have presented in our previous episode when we have introduced the new Sufi movement represented in the Sammaniya and was the school of Sheikh Ahmed ibn Idris, that is Khatmiya in addition to Tijaniya. In his book, Zikriyat wa Khawatir Afriqiya, the former Syrian ambassador, at Khartoum, Turkey, Saqr, has described Sheikh al-Burai as the Sheikh of the Sudan. To quote him, at Khartoum you will discover that the prophetic eulogies fill the streets as well as radio and TV. Also in the taxi, even in the private cars. Out of these well-famous ones are the eulogies of Sheikh Abdurrahim al-Burai, known as the Sheikh of all Sudan, who at his door stands the whole from the president to the simple citizen. An impression of a Western visitor. The traveling journalist, the German Prost Wanel, who spent more than 3 days at Zariba in an article published by the independent British newspaper. The article, which sparked public opinion in Britain and accused political and religious parties of supporting and favoring the raising of Muslim spirituality in Britain. He described his visit to Zariba as a historic one that radiated in his life, and the honor of generosity of Sheikh al-Burai left an impact in himself that grew his admiration whenever he remembered him. Just we quote of his words the following: "The Muslim world has often been portrayed as a world of bearded fanatics, suicide bombers. But I found them from my visit distorted, impressionistic images that are far from the truth. However, my encounters with some Islamic leaders, like Sheikh al-Burai, for example, when I arrived in Zariba, I saw Sheikh al-Burai sitting on a carpet on the sand with his son, who called Jaili. There were many people there, particularly adolescents in al-Masjid, carrying wooden slates that help in memorization of the Holy Quran. Before Sheikh al-Burai built his mosque, Zariba was a courtyard inhabited by shepherds, according to the information I learned during my meetings with local officials. The Sufi was able to stabilize the area by establishing schools, in addition to Quranic schools and health centers, which attracted devotees and murids from both inside and outside of Sudan. He also visited influential Arab and Islamic figures. Zariba developed as an important center for the spread of Islamic culture and knowledge. I entered Sheikh al-Burai's room called Retreat Khalwa, and he was sitting on a bed of robes. At first glance, I thought he was sitting on the throne, dressed in gold ornaments, as suggested by the pictures, posters, and volumes of Sheikh al-Burai poetry that were scattered throughout the markets. However, I discovered that he was a more moderate and behavioral figure, and his room was just a bed of robes with a carpet mat on the floor. Such a view, by the way, reflects how Sheikh's way of austerity, despite the well-reputed and fame that he enjoyed among the Sudanese people and beyond. As we have before stated in his doctrine, by the way, he is an example of ascetic, a true sincere ascetic, and because of his humility and humbleness and simplicity and the way that he followed in his treatment with the people, he stands as an example to the true guide and the true ascetic who possess, but at the same time he's so humble and so simple and moderate in his dealing with others. Erudite, accomplished poet. Sheikh al-Burai is known as the poet of Sudan, and in this concern, just I would like to say that he is of great influence in terms of handling him in his wide, great, huge Sufi production, which included the prophetic eulogy from a side and Sufis personalities, the great figures of the Sufis in Sudan and beyond. Together, these things which inside we come to find that Sheikh al-Burai has successfully managed to dominate the scene since his assumed to Caliphate in 1944, rising up with high theme of repetition during 70s, following 80s and 90s, we find that he is a dominated figure that whenever and wherever you go, you will find him in form of all of his songs, some of the prophetic madih that is scattered around the country. So he is among the most investigated figures in Sufism in terms of the many of the theses, the several of his studies that have been devoted and have been tackled, the genres of poetry that already he had composed. However, the area of investigation and studies that already targeted his poems, by the way, have been represented in the Islamic values and rights that already he has expressed in his several poems, in addition to his handling to the Sufi principles and the Sufi suluk, by the way. This is also where there whenever you come to listen or to read his poetry. And about the sources of his poetry, about Sheikh al-Burai sources of poetry here, just would like to mention the Quran. And if you listen to him also, you will observe how Sheikh al-Burai successfully managed to quote and to support his the thematic meaning of the poem or the ode that he tried to deliver, how he managed successfully, by the way, to quote the Quran. Other source that Sheikh al-Burai has followed, by the way, in making up his poems is the prophetic Sunnah and Hadith. And also, it is very clear that you will come across and you will easily observe to some extent, or to great extent, that Al-Sheikh al-Burai, by the way, is qualified, competent, and a man of knowledge, great knowledge, knowledgeable in the prophetic Sirah and prophetic Sunnah. Other sources, by the way, of his poetry composition, by the way, the Sammani literature and doctrine. And in this regard, I guess I would like to say that Sammanis is still known with their production of authoring books. So the Sammani literature, by the way, mainly the books that already have been authored by Sammanis, furthermore constitute one of the sources that Sheikh al-Burai had benefited in his way of making up his poetry. In an interview conducted with him in Al-Hayat newspaper, the lecturer at Khartoum University, Muhammad Abdulaziz Nafi, stresses that Sheikh al-Burai was in perfect knowledge with the science of the Arabic language. In his own words, we also hint throughout his poetry and eulogies that he was in great and accurate knowledge with history, geography, geographical locations, genealogy, as well as arithmetic. Moreover, of a thorough knowledge with syntax, parsing, rhymes, prosody, and its alliteration, and of all what is included, the semantics, the rhetoric, so on and so forth. In short, we can say he possesses the language science as a whole. Adding to this is the inclusion of his poems and eulogies to all of the fiqh and devotional issues. Adding to that, his perfect knowledge of the Sudanese dialects. In their book, Al-Burai Rajul al-Waqt, the man of his own time, Al-Buni, Latif Al-Buni and Abdul Latif Said have commented on the Shaykh contributions in changing the madih musical style in his adaptation of traditional songs, melody, and rhythm. Such changes became artistically very attractive and appreciable to the youth, especially when listening to them from Awlad al-Burai, who are professional madih group of performers established by their sheikh personally to chant his madih. Sheikh al-Burai used simple words in his poetry to teach people basic principles of Islamic religion, such was such were the views of Abdulatif al-Buna, Abdulatif said in their book Al-Burai Rajul al-Waqt, the man of his own time. From another side, the poetry of Sheikh al-Burai is widespread in all over Sudan. It is broadcasted from the radio and the television, published in press, in books, recorded in recording cassettes and videotapes. It has been performed by youth and elders with the traditional music instruments such as Nauba drum or tar tambourine, and sung also with the modern music instruments such as lute, violin, and guitar. And in this consent, just I would like to point out that Sheikh al-Burai was one of the first who utilized music as a tool that can be taken in performing Sufi and prophetic madih. This phenomenon could be attributed, according to Al-Buni and Said, to many reasons, such as the Sheikh chose current words for his poetry that could be understood by youth. He dealt with the topics in modern contexts. He chose poetry words that enable the admission of light music, half tune and a quarter tune. He gives his poetry the music of non-songs. Sometimes he chooses the music of a song before he composes the poetry or the poem. As I see it, the living phrase of Sheikh Ahmadu Bamba, 1853-1927, who said, "My writings are my true miracles," applies to what Sheikh al-Burai has left of the numerous poetic diwans in praise of the Prophet Muhammad, as well as the Islamic and Sufi teachings and figures, following the impact of the Sheikh poems inside as well outside the country, mainly the neighboring African countries. I can say that the great miracles of Sheikh al-Burai legacy is his poetic production. Abundantly praising a celebrated accomplished poet, Sheikh al-Burai has written the following diwans. The first of his diwans is بهجة الليالي والأيام في مدح خير الأنام. This is his first diwan, poetic diwan, followed with the second one, رياض الجنة نور الدجنة, which its first edition was in the year 1967, while the second edition was in 1990. And other diwans is the one of Misr al-Mu'ammana, the one of لك سلام مني, the one of poetic بوريك طبك, another diwan الصحابة, another diwan سيد حوازن, and الجوهر الأزنى, in addition to some others. Before handling the areas of the reforms that has already carried out by my master Sheikh Ibrahim al-Burai, here it is necessary, by the way, to present the definition or a definition to the concept of the social reformer. So in Collins Dictionary, reformer is defined as someone who tries to change and improve something such as a law or a social system, while in dictionary.com the term reformer is defined as a person who devoted to bringing about reform, as in politics or society. Another definition came from Cambridge Dictionary, which defines the social reformer as someone who tries to improve a system or law by changing it. The studies related to the social reform mainly in the third world countries have stated that social reform did not ordinarily mean a reorganization of the structuring of society at large, as it did in the West, for the benefit of underprivileged social and economic classes. Instead, it meant the infusion into the existing social structure of the new ways of life and thought. The society would be perceived while its members would be transformed. The impact and the influence that caused by the spread out of the Sufi songs and the prophetic madih that have been composed by my master Sheikh Burai, by the way, is not confined to Sudanese people only. Rather, it has its own great fans and audience scattering around the neighboring countries. Initially, there is the spread out of these Sufi songs, and then its arrival or reaching out to its audience inside and outside the country. By the way, it has been done through recording cassettes. And in this case, recording cassettes has helped a lot in carrying out the message of the Sheikh to his audience. No doubt, Sheikh, my master Sheikh Al-Burai, by the way, in this concern has greatly succeeded in sending his own message through these Sufi songs, which in its very essence were a reflection to the prophetic seerah, the good manners of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to his audience, taken from these Sufi songs, a means so as to instruct and at the same time raising the awareness of his audience to the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as well as his seerah, the prophetic mission. As a result of this, by the way, the Sheikh has made his own audience, as I stated, not only inside the country, but scattering around the African neighboring countries. However, impression and reaction, I mean here, impression and positive reaction towards this art has been expressed in different ways. Here, just I would like you to share me an audience view, a fan from Ethiopia, regarding this beautiful art, the art of the Madih, and how this art has changed the image and has changed the mood of listening to any Sudanese product. For example, as we are going to see in his own reaction, that in the past time the Ethiopians were so motivated and motivated by the Sudanese songs, mainly that of Muhammad Wardi, Ahmad al-Mustafa, Sayyid Khalifa, and others. But by the emergence of Sheikh Al-Burai as a Sufi prophetic Madih composer, and then the reaching of, or the arrival of his Sufi song, as they have stated, through recording cassettes, has started to change a little bit the situation there. So once again, I would like you to share me his audience, one of Sheikh Al-Burai audience view towards what effect that he has caused in that neighboring African country, Ethiopia. Listen. Some 20 years ago, in the holy month of Ramadan, whenever you visited many of the coffee houses, Shai Bait in Amharic, in Mercato, Adri Safar, Diri Dao, Disi Yima, Dise, and other counties of Addis Ababa, such as Harar, what you hear from the tape recorders put beside the cashiers were mostly the Sudanese songs of Muhammad Wardi, Ahmad al-Mustafa, and Sayyid Khalifa. It seems to me that most of the youth of the time used to consider those Sudanese songs meaningful spiritual melodies. Since 2000, however, this habit started to change slowly, and the songs were being replaced by the marvelous Sudanese Nashida, probably called Madih. And from the Ramadan of 2003 onwards, the evenings of the cafe, restaurants, music shops of Addis Ababa and other towns are dominated by the Sudanese Madih. Such a dramatic change happened, as I think, with the emergence of the highly mystic Sudanese Nashida album titled Al-Adnani. So I guess I would like to say that Al-Adnani, by the way, is wide film recording cassette that has been transmitted during 1990s. And it is so famous that is because not only it has its own content that it included, but rather the performance of these songs, mainly in this cassette, Al-Adnani, by the way, the performers who were called Awlad al-Burai, the sons of al-Burai, who in fact were his students and his murids, have added flavor and beauty out of their talent and skillful at the same time of their beautiful voices. So they were his own roving ambassador of love. They managed successfully, by the way, to send the message of the Sheikh to his audience in different parts of the Islamic world. So this band is behind the success of this beautiful artistic literary production that Sheikh al-Burai is an example of an excellent figure in this regard. Another point I would like to add here is that after the recording cassettes, by the way, the situation has changed dramatically also. That is because of the advent of the internet. So the internet, through its different platforms, mainly the social media, YouTube and others, Facebook, so on and so forth, in its own turns have also played great role in sending out the message of the Sheikh. It helps the Sheikh to send out his message to his audience in more advanced and at the same time more spread, a more quick way, reaching to his audience at its own different places across the Islamic world and beyond. The social reformer. Sheikh al-Burai was engaged by means of both his poems and his direct guidance to his local community in Kordofan. The discouragement of drinking of alcohol, encouraging marriage, changing wedding singing practices to religious rather than secular songs, splitting men and women into separate sides at wedding parties, encouraging women's education, combating pharaonic circumcision. All these were just major issues that the Sheikh has worked night and day to combat and restore. Sheikh al-Burai concentrated on self-discipline in order to achieve moral reform of the whole society. It is interesting that Sheikh al-Burai used the individualist doctrine of the Samaniya order to reach collective mobilization of society. So his social reforming, by the way, has taken different forms. And just here I would like to present part of his efforts so as to restore and at the same time so as to combat the bad evil phenomenon that is spread across his local community and beyond. So first of all, here I just would like to say his views and his efforts that he has done, by the way, in his way of combating the drinking of the wine. And he just would like to say Sheikh al-Burai is an anti-liquor drinking campaigner. He instructed the Murids to abstain from alcohol consumptions after ascending to the position of Khalifa of the Tariqa. So in this regard, just would like to point out to a written document, by the way, back to 1959, in which he addressed the locals in that area to abstain from drinking the wine, which was to make liquor, and at the society, by the way, the society at his own area and across Kurdistan and the other part of and in some other parts of Sudan. By the way, in that ancient time, they used to make liquor, wine, and serve it with food during weddings. This habit, by the way, is widely spread in his surrounding villages, as if it is a culture and a custom that used to be followed with the locals. So Sheikh al-Burai, in that way, he started combating this bad habit. Therefore, he started to combat this practice when he took over, as we have stated, the Caliphate in 1944. He then watched those who watch and monitor those who were drinking alcohol in the marketplace and urged them to stop. After that, he started speaking to the people who were involved in this issue, mainly the great personalities among the locals, those people of wisdom such as Sheikh Ali Abu Garin. So he is known for his anti-liquor drinking campaign after he has been, as we have stated, to succeed his father in the Caliphate in 1944, and in that regard he managed, by the way, to convince all the inhabitants of Dariba and the surrounding village not to drink alcohol or wine. The core idea of the document that already we have stated, in which that is already has been written by him, by the way, to some senior disciples, and dated back, as we have stated, to 1959. In that document, he asking the senior disciples, asking them to inform those followers of the Tariqa to shun away with drinking of wine if they, the followers, are interested to abide with the Sufi path that has been taken from him. Moreover, they have been asked not to sit, so that the senior disciple asked the followers not to sit with those who deal with the drinking of wine. Furthermore, they also have been asked to cut ties with them. All of these measures, by the way, have been taken for the benefit of the locals. And If any one of the followers who did in contrary, that means he is not abide with what already have been stated by the Sheikh, should come to Masjid to renew the pledge with presenting the sound repentance and doing the righteous deed, as well observing obligatory and voluntary prayers, moreover performing litanies daily. We didn't find wine when our consciousness opened up and we went to concert venues or festival after more than a decade, but we did encounter another issue, the ban on dancing and singing. Our father Sheikh Abdul Rahim al-Burai, if he heard girls singing, it means that there was dancing. And maybe the younger generation didn't realize that the girls were dancing in a dress only, which forced them to display all of their body's beauty in front of the public. Naturally, the Sheikh came to the concert site if he heard singing, and when he arrived, they dispersed. The exit from the ceremony location is not the door, but rather the shortest spot in the yard, because everyone there is eager to avoid seeing and getting to be known by the Sheikh. A person is watching the road until he informs the younger people of the Sheikh arrival before he even gets to the ceremony location. If he sees the Sheikh, he raises his voice and says, "Sheikh, come to you." Then they flee, and everyone flee, and the first of them, the groom. People might be curious about how to have a wedding without singing. The explanation is that praise singing, madih, which is an alternative to singing, allows the audience to express their delight in the performance to the beats of praise. As is customary in Sudan, women also share that event, the sharing the session of madih. There is no problem in that. Such was a narrator, Sheikh Abdul Rahim Haj Ahmad, the grandson of Sheikh al-Burai, giving his views toward the endeavor that led by Sheikh to mend and to reform his own community. Another example that proves the social role, that played by the Sheikh, by the way, on the way of raising the local religious awareness, is that Sheikh al-Burai asked the local villages near Zariba to move their market or to change the time of their market from Friday to Saturday. On the other side of the bad image of the situation, that on Friday, not only people, by the way, they were not participate in performing the Friday prayer, but also the wine used to be sold openly. So Sheikh addressed the local to change the time of their gathering to the market from Friday to Saturday. And by the way, they agreed, and they used to come to Zariba on Friday to attend the sermon and to attend also the prayer and the prophetic praising and remembrance of Allah. And as a result, many of them repented to God, and the entire region's situation improved. Such were place effort that led by Sheikh al-Burai. May Allah be pleased with him. Anti-female genital mutilation, Gambena. In 1970s, Sheikh al-Burai had called to a conference held at his residence at Zariba in collaboration with College of Medicine, University of Khartoum. Sheikh al-Burai's aim and major idea behind the conference, which was held with the assistance of some of the physicians, in addition of their students from the main college, was to combating of some bad habits that harm the girls, namely girls' circumcision. You may discover the Sheikh being highly concerned about highlighting women's issues in his speeches, sermons, as well as his poetry, which supports this trend. He stood as an advocate and defender of the women issues, where I will undoubtedly come across oaths like the placed wife, الزوجة المباركة, the unmarried women, al-ayama, so on and so forth. So in that way, just I would like to say here that Sheikh al-Burai has given the women issues, by the way, great concern, and women always were present in his poems, and he devoted, by the way, poems in favor of handling the women issues. For more information, see Abdul Jalil Abdullah Saleh, Burai of Sudan, an anthology of his Sufi praise poetry, 2019. As it has pointed up of the poetic lines that Sheikh al-Burai, or the poetic odes that he has composed on women issues, Sheikh al-Burai used his madih as a means of stopping and combating the Sudanese harmful traditions, such as female circumcision. He worked in the same trend of modern organization, civil society, which he called for ending this unhealthy tradition, calling from another side for easy marriages as means of curing society from illegal relationships of women and men. Al-Burai at a later stage formed non-governmental associations for arranging non-costly marriages for youth. And by the way, that was a very wide project called the collective marriage, or in Arabic, al-irs al-jama'i, advocated by the Sheikh himself. And in that regard, the project was so very successful in bringing together those unable male and female bearing the cost of marriage. Moreover, Sheikh al-Burai admits education of women and that women can acquire high status. It is significant that he alluded a special area in his masjid in order to teach women religious and other sciences. He appointed his sister, Sarah bint Sheikh Muhammad Wagi Allah, as responsible of teaching women of Zariba, Sufi and Islamic sciences. Al-Burai advised his audience to treat women well in his different poems. He said that the Prophet advised his followers for good treatment of women. Furthermore, Shaykh Ibrahim al-Burai used his madihs and Sufi songs as a means of putting an end to and combating the harmful practices practiced in the Sudan. As we have pointed earlier, such bad habits and harmful practices as female circumcision, the cost of marriage, so on and so forth. As has been noted of the poetic lines he has created in women's difficulties, he followed the same path as contemporary civil society organizations that advocate for the abolition of this harmful custom, calling for simple weddings as a strategy of eradicating male-female illicit relationships from society. For more information, see Nawa Solomon, For Love of the Prophet, an Infography of Sudan's Islamic State, 2016. However, based off his great efforts and contribution to his own society. By the way, Sheikh Burai has been awarded many honorary doctorates from many famous Sudanese universities, such as Omdurman Islamic University, University of Jazeera, and University of Kordofan. As well, he has been awarded the Medal of Science from the government of Sudan and the Medal of Excellence from the President of Egypt. On his passing away in 2015, 5 شهر Burai, influence can be seen in his initiation of great numbers of students into the Samaniya, including professionals, intellectuals, workers, and some others. And in that regard, just would like to say that his legacy, by the way, the legacy of Sheikh al-Burai is represented in two areas or in two categories. That he is initiated and guided so thousands of murids into the Sufi path, and at the same time he left a very huge and great literary production of poetry. In other words, he left behind very great literary poetic production, and just would like to say that by his passing away in 2005, he came to be succeeded by his righteous son Sheikh Al-Fatih, the current Khalif of the center.
حليل فريد عصر ما شفنا مثيل برعينا
الغوث حليل فريد عصر ما شفنا مثيل برعينا
الغوث حليل فريد عصر ما شفنا مثيل برعينا
الغوث حليل فريد عصر ما شفنا مثيل برعينا
حليل الغوث بدن يا حليل حليل البدر قنبليل
برعينا الغوث حليل
حليل سبع يا حليل تهليل حليل لا أبكى نهار ليل برعينا